displacement, the shrinking life security, the most concerning regional threat. So this panel is organized by MAEW, and the moderator is Assistant Professor Dr. Narumon Thepchumpon from Institute of Asian Studies, Chulalongkorn University. So Dr. Narumon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much ขอบคุณค่ะpanel นี้จะเป็น2ภาษานะคะไทยกับอังกฤษเพราะว่าเรามีคุณธัญญาด้วยนะคะ This session will be both Thai and English I mean คนไทยพูดภาษาไทยนะคะคนนอนไทยก็พูดภาษาอังกฤษหรือภาษาประจำชาติ but not Tagalog panel นี้นะคะชื่อมันอลังการนิดหน่อยนะคะสำหรับชื่อภาษาไทยนะคะภาษาไทยชื่อของเขาก็คือเมื่อทุนใหญ่เติบโตแต่ประชาชนรีบเล็กนะคะข้อห่วงใยวิตกกังวลนะคะซึ่งก็เมื่อกี้มีการแปลไปแล้วนะคะว่าถ้าหากว่าถ้าตั้งชื่อจากงานนี้นะคะของเราเป็นเรื่องแมวกับหนูนะคะเราพาแนลนี้ก็จะเป็นเรื่องการเล่าเรื่องของแมวนะคะผ่าน Regional ส่วนทุนใหญ่แล้วก็เล่าเรื่องของหนูนะคะซึ่งเป็นชีวิตชาวนาโดยคนอุบลอยู่ว่าแล้วเราก็มีคุณสยามนนะคะซึ่งปัจจุบันเป็นกรรมการสิทธิ์นะคะจะมาเล่าเรื่องคนที่ดูปัญหานะคะของหนูกับแมวนะคะว่าตกลงเจออะไรบ้างนะคะเราก็จะเริ่มต้นด้วยเรื่องของแมวก่อนนะคะว่าแมวเนี่ยนะคะได้ทำอะไรบ้างในทางภูมิภาคส่งผลยังไงได้เติบโตขนาดไหน
I'm with the NGO Forum on ADB, and I'm based currently in Manila in the Philippines. The NGO Forum on ADB is an organization, it's a network of hundreds of organizations across the region that are primarily focused on the impacts of the ADB and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank investments and what it means to their lives. So I'm just going to go through a set of slides and explain a little bit about the two banks and the way that currently their investments actually do impact our livelihoods. So here I'm just going to... Oh, is it echoing? It's okay. Yeah. So just to speak first about the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Both the ADB and the AIIB, they're known as international financial institutions, but the AIIB is newer. It was formed in 2015, and their headquarters are in Beijing, which makes it actually very difficult for any of human rights groups or community affected groups to actually go to the headquarters and make any presentation or any engagement with the actual bank members. So the bank itself is focused on investments in Asia, but also connectivity to other regions, including Africa and Latin America, the Middle East, as well as Europe. And so right now there are 180 projects that they've financed to date. The bulk of that financing is for energy, transport, and also going to financial institutions, meaning other types of banks. They also have a non-resident board, so their board members make the decisions on whether projects are approved, but they're all based in primarily in either Beijing itself or in their own countries. And it means that also, different than the Asian Development Bank, there are no actual offices in each country. The way that the projects are approved are very opaque. So the voting shares primarily fall upon China, India, and Russia. And then other countries also have a share in voting. Right now there are over 100 countries that are members. And so just to give you a quick idea of some of the projects they invest in the region, here you can see that for Thailand, their main project that they're financing is the Utapo International Airport. In Vietnam, they are financing the Dak Treng power project. In Cambodia, they have several investments that have been made in small microcredit investments, which as the Cambodian groups have brought up in the past and currently are bringing up, this is a major problem that leads to actually land grabbing, and it's hard to trace back these investments from the AIIB. And then also in terms of other investments, you have in Laos that they are financing looking at financing a wind project, and have also been financing road infrastructure. I just want to bring up one particular project that came up as a proposed project on the AIB's list at the end of last year, right before people were breaking for the end of the year break, around just right at the end of December. And it was the Hin Kong gas-fired power project. It's been highly concerning for both community groups here in Thailand as well as more internationally, because it's a project that would clearly undermine the climate ambitions, but also have major impacts for communities. So we, together with Thai groups and groups internationally, we put together a letter of protest before the project was actually approved, and went to the bank board of directors, and also put pressure on using the media as well as social media, and raised concerns about this project to the extent that actually it was taken off the list of proposed projects. So this is one victory that you can see can actually happen if you catch investment projects when they're at a proposed stage rather than already being approved. However, as I said, right now the AIIB has a highly opaque structure of how they develop their policies, and they're generally not open to very meaningful consultations. So here you can see that we had this so-called online consultation about their energy sector strategy, and we decided that it was, because it was only 1 hour that was going to be held for consulting with civil society groups around the world, and again, only 1 hour on Zoom, we all decided with a whole range of other groups to call this out as absolutely not meaningful and not inclusive. And it also did not have any possibility over Zoom to do, they refused to do any kind of translation. So we called them out, and we had one woman, the woman at the top of the corner, you can see she had her hand raised. She made one quick presentation and said, we reject this kind of a consultation, and then we all walked out on Zoom and left the panel of the AIIB alone in the Zoom room. And so this is our only way so far we've really been able to have impacts on the actual Zoom strategy that they've been using that ends up silencing most groups. I'm now going to move a little bit over to the Asian Development Bank to talk about that, because a lot of people I know from this room will know about the ADB, but in this region, it's been very hard to track the investments of the ADB currently. Many people have thought that in the past, the ADB was financing mega infrastructure, especially in Thailand, but also large dams in Laos, and it seems like they've taken a step back. So in comparison to the AIIB with a lot of concerning projects, the ADB seems to be getting off the hook. And what I want to actually say is that, in fact, the investments that they're making continue to be harmful. And I'm just going to show you this one proposed project that has come up recently on their website. It actually relates to what Kun Watun was speaking about earlier about carbon markets and carbon credits. It's called the New Forest Tropical Asia Forest Fund, and it's a fund to support the development of plantations, including rubber plantations and timber plantations, as well as for bioenergy. And the regions that are, the countries that are covered include Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Solomon Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. So this very much has to do with this region and developing, bankrolling, really, the development of plantations. Now, what is the company behind this fund? If you look then, you can't see it on the ADB's website, but if you look into investment news, you can see that who are the people or the companies behind it. It includes Total Energies, so that's a total gas company. Temasek, which is a Singaporean company that's also highly involved in fossil fuels and other major infrastructure projects. Sumitomo Bank, and then also you have the Packard Foundation and the ADB and a couple of other climate funds. So it's just clear that in some ways the money is flowing into the region, but in a different way and in a channel that is harder to track and harder to see than in the past. Also, just to go then quickly to a snapshot of what are some of the current recent projects that the ADB has financed in the region, particularly in the energy sector. You can see that although they are, as I said, as you may have seen in the first slide, the ADB is calling itself the climate bank of the region. And yet when you look at what they are financing, yes, they say that they're financing some solar and wind projects recently. But if you actually look at then in Thailand, for example, they're financing the 2,500 megawatt Chonburi gas project, 2,500 megawatt Eastern Economic Corridor gas project, other waste to energy project, which itself has a complaint against it by the communities, as well as then, as I said, some smaller investments. They also have several investments in the EEC in terms of the background infrastructure, as well as other gas projects that were financed before 2017. In Cambodia, they are actually they're looking at financing the development of the PDP. So this is also concerning because that means that they're then in the background and you won't necessarily see how they are shaping and advising the government, but they are indeed doing that. And it means that it actually gives us, for those of you from Cambodia, but also for people concerned about the PDPs in the region, it gives an option for us to actually ask for the documents that they're putting forward and ask them to provide presentations directly on what they are saying to the Cambodian government. So there are ways to intervene, but we need to take the opportunity before the actual projects have gone forward. Again, and then just going down quickly in Vietnam, they're also financing another waste to energy project. So that's an incinerator, basically burning the waste, right? They're also supporting the financing of a solar project in partnership with Gulf and another partnership with the Thai company BGRIM and other types of wind and solar projects. And in Laos, they have been supporting most recently the Nam Niep dam and the development of biodiversity offsets. So what that means is that they're helping set up zones that are supposedly equal to what was just submerged by the dam, which we all know is absolutely a shameful thing to be really saying, that there actually is a way to replace this land that has been displaced. And So just finally, I want to, before I wrap up, the ADB they basically named themselves the bank, the climate bank of the region. Next week, starting on Monday, is their annual meeting. And what that means is that there are currently 2 sessions that the NGO Forum on ADB, and there's one actually being hosted by Oxfam, but by other groups. So 2 from our side, one is on energy and one is on safeguards. We've asked ADB people, some of their senior officers to be on the panels during the sessions which we're holding online. And you can see that they're on our Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn accounts. You can join the live stream or listen in later. But our main message right now is that we're calling on the ADB to stop financing false climate and energy solutions. We're saying that gas and waste to energy and dams are all false solutions to the climate and energy crisis that people face, and that they should instead be supporting decentralized renewable energy systems if they say that they are really going to be supporting a just transition in the region. And that's it for me. Thanks a lot.
ขอบคุณคุณธัญญานะคะก็คุณธัญญาก็ใช้เวลาแบบกระชับมากนะคะนี่ยังมีเวลา
from I have talked about the cats, but who's funding the cats? For example, the development project. Okay, let's now hear from the mice. How do people have been negatively impacted from the project in this board game of investment? What would be that? What are the impact? I have คุณอุบลอยู่ว่าคุณอุบล the floor is yours.
สวัสดีครับเหนื่อยไหมครับฟังทั้งวันฟังอีกหน่อยนะ
You just have to listen a little bit more. I'm just going to say one sentence after Kun Tanya. If you travel from Maesaot district to Tak province across to Mukdahan in Laos, in Thailand and Northeast and Sawanakhet in Laos. It's that corridor that links between Myanmar and across Thailand to Laos. So if the farmers in the Northeast are saying, having a conversation about what will benefit us in the area when our 4-lane roads go through our village, apart from losing the land, losing our banana trees and so on. And it makes it difficult for us to try to cross over and with the cattle and so on. So they had to stop raising cattle because it makes life very difficult when the 4-lane road goes past through our area. And this is the fate of the cat, the mouse. So the Thai farmers now are going to be difficult, like suffering farmers, maybe even worse in worse situation than neighboring countries. The average, because we grow old before we grow rich. We now have an average age of 58, and I am 60 years old, and the other farmers nearby, so 61, 69, and so on. We all are rice farmers, and while we are put into this situation, in last February, the Statistics Office of Thailand shows that 1.7 million workers went home during the COVID situation, and moving from Chonburi, Rayong, Phuket, the eastern ports and the south, the tourist area. So these people, if they have any skills, digital skills, so they will sell things online, and then for the farmers, they're trying to, for these groups who don't have the skills, if they have the skills, they will sell anything online. But the older workers will try to do some trading. And now in the villages, you can see a coffee shop that looks similar to the one in Chiang Mai University campus. This is the businesses started by the workers who had to go home during the COVID situation, or then they joined the farming families. From this 1.7 million people that had to move back home, then we looked at about 40 people in a village nearby, and there are over 40, and we found that these workers being left off by the factories, they don't know where else to go. They're being laid off from the restaurants, from the shops, haircut, or some beauty shops. And then for the farmers at 58, where are we going to go? There's been a study of the various scenarios for the Thai farmers. There are 3 scenarios. One, you become an entrepreneur farmer, doing everything vertically, and then now they don't pay attention to rice anymore. They might do growing herbs, mushrooms, and they can do some processing and sell lotion, the herbal lotion or something like that. The second scenario, and this is what the government wants them to do, to amalgamate their land together to become a large cooperative and deploy all this modern technology in farming with all the machines and so on, and the computer system. And then the third area is the smart farmers using digital skills and computerized kind of farming system. But the problem is these scenarios do not cover what may actually really happen. And what will happen, in fact, it's about when companies actually come in. Because my sons and daughters are not going to remain farmers. So because the farming occupation is going to die off. So if you look at the credits being given by the Bank of Agriculture and Agriculture Cooperatives, they're going to give more credit to farmers who want to invest in buying machines and doing mechanical farming, and also for using chemical sprays and so on. And this is a dangerous way for Thailand, as Thailand is talking about bio-circular economy, biological green circular economy. But actually they want to grow corn and to make biomass energy. So these beautiful policies, the only benefits the entrepreneurs, the enterprises, and companies, not the farmers. You can see that PTT, the petroleum company, has been investing with the Singapore company to raise flies as animal feeds, and so. And all this will rest only at the level of companies and large enterprises, whereas the farmers are still selling their rice, selling their tapioca by kilos. So there is no way out while the farmers are growing old every day. So this is the difficulty for the Thai farmers. Where are they going? The government is talking about export increase of 10%, but that was for chicken meat, and that belongs to the companies. There are very few farmers actually benefit from this by working for the companies. Not small farmers. So I just want to conclude that the cat actually, the mouse is still cannot find a way to go, and whatever the policies come out that come out from the government only benefit the companies.
สิ่งที่
at the
คุณอุบล
moment.
พูดให้เราฟังนะคะจ
So,
ริงๆแล้วถ้าจะต่อกับของคุณธัญญาก็คือว่า
what
คุณธัญญา
Ubon
พูดถึงธนา
is
คาร
relating to us, if you can try to connect to Tanya's
ซึ่งระบบธนาคารก็ชัดเจนอยู่แล้ว
Tanya's report about banks, and you can see that this is not, this is basically a capitalist system. So whoever has more capital can benefit more. So, and Ubon has shown us that capitals are coming from investment, large investment in the life of the people and so actually we will talk later about the migrant workers, but what Ubon said, that I just want to add to what he said, that during the 3 years of COVID situation, the farmers are actually not in a bad situation, because some the factories around the food sector, in the food sector, still open, and they export. They continue to produce, and the migrant workers still work in the factories. But what Ubon said is that the agriculture sector can endure, but who benefits from that? Basically, it's the large investors, large companies like PTT, and they also have this large tree plantation as well.
คุณอุบลเล่าเรื่องชีวิตชาวนาไว้ 3-4 แบบนะคะดิฉันเรียกแบบแรกก็
So Ubon mentioned,
ก็คือไม่ได้ขาย
explain about 3 types of farmers,
แต่แปรรูปโดยเพิ่มมูลค่าสินค้า
farmers who just
ไม่ได้ขายน้ำนม
try to as a ways to go ways forward for the farmers.
ไปทำสบู่
So one is to just do some processing. I have done this too. I've been making soap to sell, and I use rice to make soap. Yeah. So processing farmers is one type, and then large plot farmers, and which benefits the investors, and then smart farmers. And finally, he said that we're going to see the situation where farmers become wage earners. That means they can actually, they have their land, they keep their land, they rent out their land while they go and find wage earning jobs elsewhere. So you can see that's happening now. That because if you rent the land out to more investor who brings in migrant workers to work on the land, and we ourselves are going trying to earn a living driving taxis or motorbikes in town. So Ubon left a question about how the small farmers are going to survive. I would say I can't imagine, because we can see clearly that our country has not invested in increasing the capacity of our farmers. They talk about upskill, reskill, but I think what we can see is that there are no such thing. And even though they have the skills, they will not be able to have the capital to investment to do something. So
ดังนั้นโจทย์คือสิ่งที่เราเจอในภาคเกษตร
this is what we are facing in the agriculture sector, and I believe it will be the same thing in Cambodia, in Myanmar, and in Laos PDR. So the question now is that is there any way out? One thing that Tanya has mentioned, Tanya who mentioned, it's really an unspeakable truth, because you need a restructuring. You can't allow for large capitals to keep growing and without changing any power relations. And Ubon mentioned something that even though the government says that the income from the agriculture sector is the main income of Thailand, but under this current structure it won't work. But because the income is actually coming from other businesses, not the farming business. And Tanya asked whether we need to ask questions to the banks, investment banks, and also the investors. So let's hear from the member of the Commission, Human Rights Commissioner of Thailand. And of course, they have come out with the National Action Plan on business and human rights. So what is happening in Thailand? Kun Sayamol is a lawyer who understands environmental issues and know our constraints and so on. And now she's working as a commissioner in the Human Rights Commission. So, good afternoon, all ASEAN members, friends. I worked for 27 years with NGOs in the environment on the environmental issues, but I worked 6 years in law reform section of the government. Now, before I became the commissioner, and I just want to relate this so that you can see that investment is really linked to the political structure, and it depends on who you elect as the government.
แน่นอนว่ารัฐบาลอาเซียนถ้าเราคือประเทศไทยเนี่ยอยู่ในช่วงของการพัฒนาช่วงแผนพัฒนา
Thailand is now has started this Eastern Seaboard Corridor, Eastern Economic Corridor. They started about this 30 years ago, and also the special economic zones. But if you get a government that comes from the business elites, they actually don't see the same problems as the mice see. They see the macro structure, and they use the GDP as an indicator. So in order to increase the GDP, you need large investment projects, and which the government cannot afford. So that's why you have to take out loans. So we have to go to the multilateral banks. Earlier, the World Bank, and then the ADB, now the AIIB. So when you look at the for investment for your large projects like the EEC project. This is the second phase of the region development. Actually, there is another large petrochemical development in the south, but because of the protests by the local people, they had to delay the project, and they kept delaying the project in Songkhla because the southern people did not want the project to happen. So that was the this current, in fact, it started with the coup government that tried to push for the Eastern Economic Corridors because they were able to change the law easily because they took power, and also usually to pass any legislation, to pass the law, it's quite difficult for civil, non-military government because you have to go through process of consultation and so on. And so that's when the military government took place. They were able to just pass the law then without even having to conduct environmental impact assessments, and there are other regulations like you have to go by the planning areas, the zones, the different zones. So these projects actually overrode 6 laws and the environmental law and so on. They only came out with one law for the EEC, the Eastern Economic Corridor development, just that actually revoked all the other laws that are in conflict with this one. So they were able to announce the project right away. But the problem is that the government may have thought that they would be able to attract investors from in the industries. But COVID-19 happened, so they weren't able to attract all the investors in time. So definitely not in the whole area. And right now, the companies are trying to gain support from the people in the eastern region, but they actually had a very bad experience with the earlier industrial projects. So received complaint from the people in the eastern region. Another thing that we have to look at, since the government doesn't really look at supporting the small people, so if we think we should have a self-sufficiency in food in order so we can invest the money into agriculture. But the government doesn't have this type of idea. They are only thinking of large investment projects so that to create jobs so that people can earn income. But many studies have shown that even though you invest in large projects, the money doesn't really trickle down to the small people. Only the middle level of the income people benefit from large investments. And in fact, the farmers never actually benefit, and they weren't able to catch up with the change that is happening to them. And for industrial projects, you need a lot of resources, the water and energy and so on. So they have to use the land for that purpose. So what I have said is that if we elect our representatives, if the people that we elect as representatives do not actually change their way of thinking to try to create a more equal, equitable society.
เพราะฉะนั้นเราก็ต้องดูว่าต้นทุนของประเทศเรา
So we have to
ต้นทุนคนส่วนใหญ่เป็นอย่างไร
look at the costs that are occurring to the majority of the people. 20-30 years ago, we had this economic crisis. But at that time, the natural resources were quite still was good. So actually the farmers did not have to suffer much. So you can see that if we have the resources available, the poor people can actually rely on themselves. But the people in power never look at it this way. So all the projects that they come out with has never been able to benefit the people at the bottom. And if there is no check and balance, then income distribution is not going to happen. So the solution has to be political. But it's difficult because the people, the small people, don't actually have all the information. So and also there aren't many choices of who to elect or who to vote for, and that's another problem. But I believe that if people have more information, we should be able to create change. And when we talk about business and human rights, we think that that there is investment by the international financial institutions, the Thai banks, like these Nippon, the companies that invested in Cambodia, they do pull the capital together, their investment together. So we really need to look into the whole investment supply chain. Like we have to look at the joint venture, the bank, the financing banks, and what types of workers they hire, and what environmental impacts they create. And so we talk about remedial measures. We have to look at everything. All the damages done from eviction and so on. So if you look at Thailand, for people with title deeds, they can actually get compensation from the law when there's when the land is expropriated. But people who don't have the title deeds, the former deeds, the titles, then they don't get anything, of very little. So they are made to make a sacrifice. We have to go by the international instruments of the economic and social and cultural covenant. So we have to ensure that even people without title deeds have their rights, and they have to have their rights protected by the government, by the state. This is the issues that that is key. but
จะตรวจสอบได้เฉพาะ
the Human Rights Commission
ที่
also
ไปลง
have
ทุนในกัมพู
the
ชาในเมียน
limitations.
มาเหมือนโครงการ
We can
โคบาย
only
โครงการ
look at Thai companies that make investments in
มัน
other
เขาเรีย
countries.
กว่ายังอยู่ภายใต้อำนาจ
And because this is still under our
ประเทศไทยมีกฎหมาย
sovereign rights,
เวลาเราตรวจสอบคือประชาชน
because we have an
ไม่ใช่
environmental
โครง
law.
การนะคุณต้องรู้ด้วยว่าแผนพัฒนาประเทศแผนพั
And
ฒนา
for
ชาตินั้นเป็นอย่างไร
Thai entities, then you
เพราะ
do
ว่าถ้า
need
เรา
to
จะ
know
เราจะตื่น
the
ตัวเนี่ย
development
มันไม่ได้มาแค่
plans
โครง
and
การ
so
มัน
on.
มาเป็น10โครงการ เพราะฉะนั้นพี่น้องก็ต้องรู้ว่าแผนพัฒนาของประเทศของภาคนั้นคืออะไรนะคะแล้วก็รัฐบาลมีการประเมินผลกระทบระดับพื้นที่ไหม
So we have to
คือเขาเรียกว่าประเมิน
see
ผลกระทบ
whether
สิ่งแวดล้อมระดับยุทธศาสตร์
the government has any done any strategic environmental impact assessment,
เวลามองว่า
and
พัฒนา
this is what the people have been demanding for Thailand. You want to develop the eastern
ประชาชนในภาคนั้นได้ประโยชน์อย่าง
region.
ไรและก็พื้นที่เหมาะสม
What
อย่างไร
who will
และโครงการ
benefit
แต่ละโครงการ
and how much
มีใช้ทรัพยากร
what
ไป
type
แค่ไหน
of benefits
และถ้าปล่อยมลพิษสิ่งแวดล้อม
and what
การ
types
รอ
of
งรับ
costs
สิ่งแวดล้อมมลพิษที่เกิดขึ้น
and
มากน้อยแค่ไหนเขาเรียกเป็น
or pollution. How do is there any capacity to absorb any of the pollution that is created by the industries? We have learned lessons from Maptaput real industrial estate. And if people have been affected by these chemical explosion, and it's actually spreaded more than 10 kilometers, so we have learned some lessons from there. So when the HRC, the Human Rights Commission, look at, we have to look at everything and to look also at the environmental impact assessment and whether it actually covers all aspects. And if we finally think that this is a violation of human rights, then the companies have to provide a remedy for all of the people affected. But we cannot force any governments to do anything. So right now, we have come out when the NHRC has come out with the report that like Kun Saw mentioned. So they use that report as a basis to file complaints lawsuit with the Thai court.
เนื่องจากว่ากฎหมายของบ้านของประเทศไทยและเจ้าหน้าที่รัฐยังคุ้นเคยแบบเดิมการทำรายงานนี้เพื่อให้เขา
The Thai law, the Thai court familiar with this with the Human Rights Commission report because that's our duty to file reports and to remind the government that they need to take into consideration all aspects of human rights and also I really want to support Tanya. Just a final case, there was the Triumph workers who were laid off by the company, and they asked for compensation while the company actually left the country. And the Ministry of Labor said that the only thing that they could do is to pay social security compensation for the workers. But the company has fled the country and so because the Thailand for factories there was no law that requires that the companies put the money into the fund to ensure that the workers can get the compensation. if they are discharged,
ซึ่งอันนี้เนี่ย
laid off.
ผลสำเร็จที่แรงงานไทย
But
อ้าง
right
ไม่ได้
now
เนี่ย
we
ไม่ใช่มาจาก
have
อง
in
ค์กรนะ
other
มาจาก NGO
industries.
NGO ก็เลยไปรณรงค์คัด
So
ค้านว่า
actually
บริ
finally
ษัทเนี้ย
it's
ไทย
the
อ้างเนี่ยมันเป็น
NGOs
การลง
that
ทุนของ
moved
ไต้หวัน
on
แล้วก็มีการไม่จ่ายค่าแรงจนสำเร็จ
work
จาก
on
NGO แล้วก็เขาก็มาบอกเรา
the
ว่า
Taiwan
เขาสำเร็จ
company
แล้วเขาสามารถได้เงินค่าแรงงาน
actually
แล้ว
paid.
ดิฉันก็เลยเชีย
So
ร์ว่า
finally the company actually paid the compensation for the workers. So I would say that if we can send information to each other from in different countries and to trying to rally support together, that could resolve the problems. So working with NGOs is very important.
ค่ะขอบคุณนะคะก็เรา
Thank
ได้
you
ฟังนะคะคุณสยาม
คุณ
นไม่
ส
เพีย
ยาง ม
แค่
น
คอมเมนต์นะคะแต่ยังเสนอ
คุณ
งานของ
สยามน
นะคะ
has
ตอนนี้เราเหลื
also
อ
talked
เวลา
about
อี
the
ก
work of the Human Rights
20 นาที
Commission
นะคะแล้วเรา
of
จะเริ่ม
Thailand.
ตรงเวลานะคะคุณ
Even
เบลไม่ได้มอง
though
หน้าเรา
we have
นะ
20 minutes
ตอนนี้ก็
more,
คือ4:40นะคะเรามีเวลา20 นาที
we
นะ
have
คะเราจะ
20
ขอ
minutes
เปิด
for
สักประมาณ
questions
15 นาทีแล้วก็ให้
and
แต่ละท่าน
answers
นะคะ
and
ตอบสั้นๆ
opinions.
ไม่ทราบว่าพี่น้องจากกัม
So
พูชาจากเวียดนาม
friends
จาก
from
ลาวหรือว่าจาก
Cambodia,
นะคะจาก
Laos
พม่านะ
and
คะ
Myanmar, do you have any questions?
So if anyone for the floor would like to comment or would like to add มีใครอยากจะเพิ่มไหมคะสถานการณ์ที่เจอในพื้นที่ค่ะสั้นๆ
So anything wants to add? Anyone wants to add as well about the situation they face in the area, their own area?
หรืออาจจะคิดว่ามันเย็นแล้วที่จะพูดเดี๋ยวเราพูด
Or maybe
ข้าวกันนะ
people think it's a bit late.
ถ้าไม่มีนะคะดิฉันจะลอง
If
ใช้
not,
วิธีตั้งคำถามก่อน
so I'm going to
วิทยากรทั้งสามท่านนะคะ
question, set up questions for
ถ้าฟัง
the
จากที่คุณ
three
เริ่มจาก
speakers.
คนพูดล่าสุดมา
Maybe starting from
คนล่าสุด
the last
คุณ
speaker,
คุณ
Kun
สยามน
Sayamol
เนี่ยพูดถึงว่า
talked about
โครงสร้างทางการเมืองหรืออำนาจทางการเมือง
the political structure and political power
ที่จะทำให้มันคำนึงถึงสิ่งแวดล้อม
actually
มาก
has
ขึ้นพูด
the
ง่ายๆ
influence,
เพิ่มอำนาจคนตัวเล็ก
can influence
เพิ่มอำนาจประชาชนที่มันรีบเล็กเนี่ยให้มันใหญ่ขึ้น
can influence the power of the small people when it comes to the environment. But we know that it's difficult in many countries. Many countries are facing the authoritarian government and dictatorship, military regime, and you talk that NGOs and civil society might be able to work together cross-border. You mentioned this, and how far can it be possible? Even maybe the regional NGOs are working with the Human Rights Commission in Thailand as well. And for Kun Ubon, we are being impacted because we are living in the area, in the field. And do you have any suggestions about how to turn the victims into agents for change? For example, farmers' movements, and some people talk about organic agriculture, and we have now seen the companies actually taking over organic agriculture, organic products already. And then for Kun Tanya, on the banks, people say that banks are like care about shareholders' value, right? So for big shareholders, they can get more money. Can this change? Because if
because normally as a company, those who have the more shareholding will have more power. But in fact, in reality, the banking system cannot survive with our customers. So will it be possible for us to make it more democratic in the structure of the banking? It's not only about commenting the project of the bank, but will it be possible to demand? I mean, we are talking about corporate social responsibility, but can we do it within the process? We don't need the PR process, but will it be possible for the bank to use the system before it's allowed? The bank might have to do the what you call risk assessment. Can we talk about democracy as one of the assessment? I mean, rather than just how much benefit. We are talking about profit, people, and planet. Can it rather than profit, I don't know what. เริ่มที่นกคุณธัญญา maybe ตอบก่อน tricky
Okay. Well, thank you for the questions, and thank you, all of you, for sitting through all of this. I know it is a long day, but yeah, just to sorry, I won't listen to myself twice. Just to give a bit of background, I mean, I think that what is important for the Asian Development Bank and the AIIB is the fact that the shareholders are not, it's not like a private bank, it is our governments. And that means that there is, of course, risk in the sense that when we bring concerns about projects to the Board of Governors that make the decisions on these projects are from our governments. So the best way that we've been able to intervene at this point has been often to actually ask for meetings with board members, and they are paired together. So for example, you will have, in the ADB, you will have the New Zealand representative with the Indonesian representative and other governments that are there. So they will come together and they actually do listen to what civil society groups say. And there have been ways to get projects canceled by going directly to the board members. So in that sense, I think it actually is really important because the money is public money. This is different than just a private bank. And I mean, I think the concern though with the ADB and the AIIB are currently that they are channeling their money through what they're calling financial intermediaries, which is they basically, like this forest investment example, they channel their investments to another fund, and then it's very difficult to trace where those sub-projects go. Similarly for the Cambodian project where they're financing Akleda and Prasak, which are two companies that are investing in or supporting microfinance credit, it's very hard to trace what happens to the villagers and the communities that get that money. So I think it is absolutely critical we put pressure on them, but not to see that that's the end, right? That we still need to build the social movements behind it to demand for different types of projects, but also to demand eventually for a different type of system that would not continue to exploit and extract the resources and exploit the people that we know, like of communities, both here in the region, but also beyond. I'll leave it at that and pass it back.
Okay, thank you. อ๋อค่ะก็จะพูดเพิ่มเติมก็คือว่าก็เห็นด้วยคุณธัญญาว่าถึงที่สุดแล้วเนี่ย
And I also agree with Kun Thanya if the international community can also inspect and also monitor the international development bank or investment bank. It would be at least regional, if not international, effort. For example, the Maastricht principle. So if for extraterritorial investment, the home state have to be responsible for the impact or negative consequences in the host state. We should, in ASEAN, we should have this kind of Maastricht agreement in terms of extraterritorial investment. For example, Thai investors have to be accountable for the negative impact in Cambodia, and vice versa. If Vietnamese investor or Vietnamese bank invest in Thailand, they also have to be accountable and also provide remedies for the negative impact suffered by the people of Thailand. The other issue is like the possibility of using human rights due diligence, because the natural resources law and environmental law do not have the human rights due diligence or human rights impact assessment. We have to work with our Thai government as well as work with Asia for this regional due diligence principle. For example, the law that could replicate the Maastricht principle, and if you would like to comply to the environmental law in Laos and you follow the EIA regulation in Laos as well as the due diligence practices, and then that could be licensed by Professor Seli and Aisha, as well as the two National Human Rights Commission from Thailand and Laos should discuss together. The other issue is the Thai Security Exchange have prepared the environment, social and governance disclosure as well as human rights impact assessment or human rights due diligence. For example, if CP is a joint venture and invest in other country, they have to follow the human rights due diligence as well as human rights risk statement requirement. So the responsible organization would be the Right and Liberty Protection Department, and the National Human Rights Commission will monitor who caused this negative human rights impact, who are the shareholder, who are board of directors, and who should be accountable for extraterritorial impact. So the board directors and the executive of the companies, they have to be accountable for the impact. So this is what we plan to do, but we also need a strong legal enforcement and also the legal framework. Thank you very much. But I would like to, you said that is it possible that mice can be powerful? I think the real power lies in the consumer. That is the power, the society and the consumer, especially for farmers, that they have been proposed to have contract farming by agro industry and agro business. So if you participate in this kind of project, they can borrow or can access bank loan starting from like 1 million. And that can be the burden, that can be the chain for the enslavement, because they do not have the power to negotiate. And the leverage is the fact and information that people knows about this negative impact of contract farming, and then we can pressure the companies. And the other way that we can also have some leverage is about the innovations. Innovation can happen slowly if you do it by yourself. For example, the National Science and Technology, like NASDA have to, introduce effective, organic, and also fine distribution and marketing channel for farmers, because farmers also want to aim to create innovation from like farmer to farmers, or like farmer school learning. For example, farmers in Sulin knows that after 1 month of like doing the paddy rice, they can actually like raise, use their paddy field as a grazing field for a month. And after mid-August, the rice will grow and start like growing faster, and then they take the cattle away from the paddy field. So this is a new innovation. So people from Pattabong who have just visited, they can raise their cattle in their own paddy field, so they can like save money because they can raise their cattle and also have the paddy rice. So these are the farmers' innovations, and the government as well as the academic institution or research institution have to provide them support. Thailand manufactures rice at number 6 of the world, and then the rest we export number 3 of the world. The majority has been consumed in the countries. If we do not develop our competencies, we need innovation, because we cannot price-wise compete with people from the other macro regions, and we should not race to the bottom to do so, to cut costs of our farmers. Thank you very much. And these are the stories that, of course, businesses are getting bigger, but the people also try to struggle against them. Tomorrow we will meet again and also discuss the different topics. For example, the situation that happened in the regions, we understand that the capital is growing bigger. The people have become like smaller. However, we have different recommendations. For example, negotiation, having a leverage, as well as working with different organizations, as well as using innovative idea. And Kun Sayamol have talked about many things that authorities can do, and what could we do more? What could we ask the National Human Rights Commission to do more in this authoritarian, the military government, right? The National Human Rights Commission should be doing more than writing the report, and probably the government will not listen or not take any recommendation for your report. People who participate in this like MAEW weeks also experience hardship, suffering and difficulty. How can we transform ourselves from mice into like stronger mice? And we are not alone. If we can synergize our collective energies, we can probably like become stronger. And currently we have only like thematic network. I understand that from Tanya that government have their face, despite they are ugly, but they want to keep their face look nice and clean. And of course we don't think about working with investment bank. We think about them as working with development bank. We think that it's investors' money, but it's our taxpayers' money. So for this session, I would like to end with a conclusion that the people are small, but we will try to gain more leverage, and despite the capitals are getting bigger and stronger, how can we make them at least take into consideration of the local people and the local context. Tomorrow we will discuss in the further detail. So a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much, Kun Sayamol, Kun Tanya, Kun Ubon, and thank you very much for our technician. We don't have like hybrid, so it is less complicated. Thank you very much. And I will end my section today. See you next time.
For moderating this panel.